Hey guys, Nicole here with Obscure Reptiles and Caging, and today we're going to be talking about quarantining your reptiles. So let's get started. Hey guys, so today I'm going to be telling you why we quarantine and showing you good ways on how to. For those of you who don't know, quarantining your animal is when you get it, you're going to want to make sure you don't put it anywhere near the rest of your reptiles. If you are one of those crazy people out there that don't have any reptiles and you're getting your first one, then this video really doesn't apply to you. But for everyone else who has even one other animal, you're going to want to make sure you're going to quarantine your animal, especially if you're going somewhere like a reptile show. We all love reptile expos, but even if you don't buy anything at the Reptile Expo, you're going to want to quarantine yourself from your reptiles at least for the first 24 hours. Even if you don't hold anything or you wash your hands after you do, let's say you pick up a baby ball python, you hold it for a little bit just to check it out, and when you're holding it, you don't know, but one tiny little mite climbed onto your shirt and now it's in your shirt. If you go home now and pick up your snake, you could have just transferred that mite onto your animal. So you're going to want to make sure, especially when you get home from a friend's house that has reptiles, a pet store, a reptile show, you're going to want to make sure you fully shower, you've changed your clothes, and you don't go near your animal. At least wait, I'd try at least 24 hours every time I'm ever exposed to anything like that. And for those of you who have never had mites or never had any issues, you are one of the lucky few, because it is awful just thinking about having something like that when you have a large collection. So it's always better to be safe than sorry, and there's quite a few things that you can do to make sure it never happens to you. I've heard quite a few people, again, from reptile shows, or they go to a big pet store and they get something like, let's say, Reptichip, and then they end up getting mites. One of my close friends, he got a bunch of Reptichip from a reptile show, and he ended up getting a whole bunch of mites, and it took him a long time to get rid of that in his collection. So I like to purchase directly from Reptichip. Make sure that if there is anything at all on it, you're not using it right away. I always purchase it in bulk and set it aside. That way I know it's completely clean. So now we know why we quarantine our animal. How do we do that? So one of the best things, especially if you have a snake, is have an extra rack. I've got one for adults and I've got one for babies. So what you're going to want to do is get yourself, even if you do not like racks, you're all about cages, it's really easy just to get yourself even just a one-level one. It's very inexpensive. Just keep your animal in that while you're quarantining, and then put them in whatever type of setup or cage that you prefer. In that cage, you are going to want to be incredibly basic. You don't want anything like cork bark, nothing porous. Not even going to want to put any bedding into this enclosure. You're only going to want like paper towels as the base, something like a water dish, especially a light colored water dish, and a hide. You don't want anything porous because, again, if there's mites, any kind of bug or parasite, they can hide in stuff like that. And the reason why you're going to want a lighter colored water dish is if a snake has mites, a lot of the time they will lay in their water dish to soak themselves, and mites will actually die and drown and can be found in the water dish. Mites, if you've never seen them, are very tiny black dots. So if you have a light colored water dish and you're checking on your animal and you see a couple little tiny black specks in the light colored water dish, makes it a lot easier to recognize compared to like a black water dish, and then you're not really going to be able to see any mites that could be in there. That is the exact same reason why you're going to have paper towel down and not bedding. That way you can see everything, you can monitor how it's eating, and even when it uses the bathroom, if it has anything weird going on, you're going to be able to see it clear as day on paper towels. And a lot of people only quarantine their animals for a couple of days or a couple of weeks. I'm here to tell you, you should quarantine for 3 months. That sounds insane, but there's a reason behind that. You're going to want to quarantine your animal for a good amount of time. So let's say you have a ball python and it had one tiny mite on it and you didn't see it. You have it in this quarantine setup, you don't treat it or anything, you just leave it because you don't know it has mites. Mites have about a 30-day span from going from eggs to babies to full-grown mites. You're really not going to see babies that well, and you're really not going to see eggs. So if you had one mite on your snake and you only quarantined it for 1 month, that means it could be covered in eggs, or its enclosure could be covered in mite eggs, and you have no idea. And now your entire collection is infected. Or it has one egg on it and you are sure you've checked it over really, really well, and then a few weeks later, all right, we're still good. Well, those couple little eggs that could have been on it won't hatch right away. It could take a little while. Once they're big enough and are actually breeding, now they're laying eggs, so by the time you're actually getting that animal infested with mites, you're already putting it with your other collection. So it's safer just to wait. And another thing is always have mite spray on hand. I luckily have not had any mites. And when I get new animals, I normally will spray them. I won't do it the first day or two. I'll normally give them a little bit of time since a lot of my animals are shipped in. If you guys saw one of our last videos, we did an unboxing video. After they had all been here a few days and they all had their first meal, I let them all digest for 3 days, and then I treated them all with mite spray. They're still all on paper towels, and that was about a month ago that I received those little ones. It doesn't hurt to give a new animal a spray down and do things and treat it and be proactive. And also for sanitary reasons, get yourself a metal hook. Why? Because they are incredibly easy to clean. If you have an animal that is on quarantine, make sure that is the last animal you are going to touch. Even if you're super excited to see it, and let's say today's feeding day, feed all your other reptiles. And then before you're going to be done, then go and you feed or you take care of and handle that quarantine animal. Because if you are going and touching that animal and then touching the rest of your reptiles in the same day, anything that could, again, be on that animal, there are different viruses and illnesses and diseases that could be on just about any reptile, not just snakes. So make sure they are the last ones you touch. But if you have something like this, and you're still going to want to make sure that animal is last, but you can use a snake hook, you can open up the bin, you can move the animal around, you can open the hide a little bit and check, and then as soon as you're done, you can disinfect this with hand sanitizer, with F10 disinfectant spray. You can do a bunch of stuff. If you're putting your hand in there and your hand goes by your shirt, anything that is on your hands, now on your shirt, most people don't change their shirt after they go into a reptile room or go check on their quarantine animal. So these are just little things that you can do or be mindful of. Once you are sure that animal is good or that animal is finally coming off quarantine, make sure you fully disinfect their enclosure that they were in so it is ready for the next time you have a quarantine animal. And do not forget to clean the top side of your rack. You slide in your bin, that snake on most racks has full access to the top part, the actual PVC or whatever your rack is made out of. They can bump up there, touch it, and that can also get dirty. So make sure you're cleaning and wiping and disinfecting not only the bin that they are in, but the top part of that rack if you are using a rack. But that's it for this video. If you guys have any questions, you can put them in the comments below. If you haven't already, please subscribe. We do videos every single Wednesday, and we'll see you next Wednesday.